Welcome to the deep dive. You've handed us a really fascinating puzzle today. This collection of articles, studies, and thoughts, all sort of orbiting the idea of human achievement. Think of this as your shortcut to really understanding what makes us strive, what we actually accomplish, and, how it shapes the world around us, our mission. To pull out the most compelling insights from everything you sent, from historical deep dives and psychological frameworks to sociological perspectives, and even a look through the lens of AI.
And it's clear from the sheer breadth of material you've shared that you're looking for more than just a quick definition, right?
Exactly.
So maybe let's start by laying that groundwork. When we talk about achievement, what are the fundamental ideas we're really grappling with here?
Yeah, good starting point. We see a few core concepts popping up again and again. At its heart, achievement is about successfully reaching a goal.
Okay.
And pretty consistently, the sources emphasize that this usually takes a combination of skill, real effort, and crucially, sticking with it, determination.
Right, that persistence factor.
Then one of the pieces you sent, referencing something called Human Achievement Day, gives us a broader view. It talks about achievements as those innovations that truly make life better, boosting our prosperity, the choices we have, our freedoms, our health, even how long we live.
So focusing on the impact more.
Yeah, exactly. That's the big picture perspective, focusing on the impact on society as a whole, not just the individual achiever.
It's interesting how that definition kind of shifts the focus from the person who achieves to the collective benefit of the achievement. And the dictionary definitions you included add another layer, don't they? They often point to like superior abilities being involved or a really significant special kind of effort.
Yeah, sometimes it even touches on courage, in the face of difficulty, or those truly remarkable, almost heroic, legendary feats.
It suggests that achievement exists on a kind of spectrum, maybe, from the everyday wins to these like monumental landmarks.
Right, totally. And then we get this almost formulaic way of looking at it, kind of inspired by Newton's laws, apparently.
How so?
Well, the idea is achievement equals skill times effort. Simple enough, but it doesn't stop there. It goes on to say that skill itself is talent multiplied by effort.
I see. So effort comes in twice.
Exactly. So when you look at it that way, the weight really, really falls on sustained effort. It's not just about being naturally gifted, though that helps, I guess. You have to put in the work and then keep putting it in.
It's fascinating how that mathematical model sort of aligns with our intuitive understanding, isn't it? You might have a natural knack for something, but without consistent effort, that talent often just sits.
Yeah, or fades.
Conversely, we've all seen examples of individuals who, through sheer determination and just grinding it out, achieve things that might have seemed, way beyond their initial capabilities.
Absolutely. Now, Charles Murray, in his book, Human Accomplishment, takes a very different approach. It's kind of fascinating.
How so?
He's almost like a historian detective. He looks at how much space different figures and their contributions are given in historical reference, works, encyclopedias, histories, that kind of thing.
Okay, so like column inches as a measure of impact?
Sort of, yeah, as a way to measure achievement in the arts and sciences. And one of his key findings is that great accomplishments aren't evenly distributed across time and place.
That makes sense, like the Florentine Renaissance or something.
Exactly. Some periods and regions seem to be absolute hotbeds of innovation, while others are comparatively quiet. It really makes you wonder what conditions might foster or, hinder that kind of breakthrough.
What's so intriguing about Murray's work is this attempt to find an objective way, or at least a quantifiable way, to study something that often feels quite subjective. He's essentially saying, let's look at what history remembers. And his point about the uneven distribution is crucial. It suggests that achievement isn't just about isolated geniuses having brilliant ideas in a vacuum. There are likely broader societal, cultural, maybe even political factors at play.
Absolutely. Then we have the philosophers chiming in, naturally.
Of course.
And they tend to see achievement as both a difficult journey, a process that demands a lot, and the tangible result of that journey.
Okay, process and outcome.
Yeah, they emphasize that it arises from competent actions, really thinking things through rationally, and having the willpower, that determination, again, to see things to completion. It's about that conscious, deliberate application of our human abilities.
That philosophical perspective brings in the crucial element of intentionality, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's not just about accidentally stumbling into success.
Right.
It's about actively pursuing a goal with a clear purpose, using our minds and our efforts in a focused way.
Now, if we shift our focus to sociology, achievement often gets defined by how well we complete a significant task, but specifically within a social context.
Right, it's about how it fits into the group.
Exactly. Talcott Parsons, a really influential sociologist, argued that modern societies increasingly use demonstrated achievements, things like our qualifications, our professional track record, stuff like that,
Credentials.
to determine our place and status in society. This really underscores how much our social structures value and, frankly, depend on what we've actually accomplished.
And it also implies that what a society collectively values will significantly influence where individuals direct their efforts, doesn't it?
Totally. Societal priorities act like a magnet, drawing human energy and resources towards what is deemed important.
Yeah, if a society places a high value on, say, scientific discovery, you'll likely see more investment in research and STEM education.
Right. Or if economic growth is the absolute top priority, individual ambition might be channeled more towards business and entrepreneurship.
Makes sense.
And then we have Shalom Schwartz's basic human values theory. This one identifies achievement as one of our fundamental human values.
Okay, so it's like hardwired into us.
Sort of. It's that underlying desire we all have, or many of us have, for personal success by demonstrating our competence. But, and this is key, according to the standards that our society recognizes.
Ah, okay. So it's a drive that's both deeply personal and shaped by the social world around us.
Exactly. It beautifully connected the individual motivation to this larger framework of social norms and expectations.
Yeah, we strive not just for our own satisfaction, but often in relation to how we are perceived and valued by the people and communities we are part of.
This all brings us to a really insightful table you included in the sources, highlighting how different cultures can have quite distinct ideas about what actually constitutes achievement.
Oh yeah, that was fascinating. The contrast is pretty stark sometimes.
Right. So in individualistic cultures, which are, common in many Western societies, success is often seen as personal accomplishments, meeting your own needs and desires, standing out from the crowd.
The rugged individualist trope, kind of.
Pretty much. The underlying motivations tend to be about your own personal goals, your rights, your freedom, and maybe gaining individual recognition or status. Think about someone starting their own innovative company and making it a huge success. That's often held up as a prime example.
That really aligns with the emphasis on individual agency we've been discussing. The focus tends to be on personal autonomy and the pursuit of goals that are self-defined.
But then you look at collectivistic cultures, and the whole picture can look quite different, can't it?
Oh, absolutely. Success is often much more tied to contributing to the well-being of the group, serving the common good, fulfilling social expectations, strengthening relationships within the community.
So the driving force is different, too.
Yeah, it's often about achieving group goals, maintaining social harmony, and bringing honor to one's family or community. Contributing significantly to a vital community project, for example, would be a great illustration in this context.
The emphasis here shifts dramatically from the I to the we.
Exactly. Personal success is often viewed as inseparable from the success and well-being of the larger group to which one belongs. Your win is the group's win, and vice versa.
And then, Confucian-influenced cultures present another fascinating perspective. Here, achieving a good education through diligent hard work is often seen as like a cornerstone of social harmony and a key form of achievement.
Right. The value placed on education and scholarly pursuits is immense.
And the motivations can be more externally focused, maybe, like achieving upward social mobility, honoring the sacrifices of one's parents, and fulfilling deeply held family obligations. Achieving top academic honors, not just for personal gain, but to bring prestige and honor to your family, really exemplifies this cultural understanding of achievement.
It really highlights the strong emphasis on education as a pathway to both personal and social advancement, and the profound sense of familial responsibility that often underpins individual striving in these cultures.
Yeah. This table and these different viewpoints really bring home the point that achievement isn't some single universal concept. It's deeply rooted in cultural values and what a society collectively deems important.
Definitely. It's shaped by context.
So achievement isn't just one thing. It manifests in all sorts of forms, right? Both individual and collective. And each has these profound impacts.
Absolutely. Think about individual achievements. You've got scientists like Edward Jenner developing the smallpox vaccine, or Newton figuring out the laws of motion. motion. Those are monumental individual efforts that change the world.
Right. Or even things on a more personal but still significant scale, like someone completing a marathon after months of training, or an entrepreneur building a successful business from scratch.
Yeah, or acts of incredible leadership or bravery, like Amelia Earhart's transatlantic flight. Or even solving a complex mathematical problem like that Andrew Wiles fellow with Fermat's last theorem. Took him years in secret.
Wow, but then you have the collective achievements, which are just as staggering in their own way.
Totally. Think about the Apollo 11 moon landing. That wasn't one person. It was thousands working together towards a common, incredibly ambitious goal.
Or the internet. I mean, that's a vast, evolving collective creation. The invention of writing itself, thousands of years ago, that was a collective process.
Advancements in human rights, like establishing the International Criminal Court, that requires huge international cooperation. Even going way back, the development of early agriculture and irrigation in Mesopotamia.
Yeah, that transformed human society. Or the intricate astronomical knowledge and calendars developed by the Mayans. These weren't solo projects.
It's almost like a grand symphony, isn't it? You need the individual virtuosos playing their part brilliantly.
Right, the soloists.
But you also need the entire orchestra working together, creating something much larger and more complex than any one person could achieve alone.
That's a great metaphor. And individual success often builds on those collective foundations, right? Newton famously said he stood on the shoulders of giants.
Exactly. And individual breakthroughs often pave the way for future collective progress. They feed into each other.
So why do we even do it? What drives this striving? Let's dig into the psychology a bit.
Okay. Well, a core concept here is achievement motivation. It's often described as this intrinsic desire for accomplishment, for mastery, for attaining high standards.
Intrinsic, meaning it comes from within.
Yeah, largely. David McClelland, a key psychologist in this area, talked about the need for achievement, or knack. He found that people with a high knack tend to be intrinsically motivated. They do things for the satisfaction of doing them well, not just for external rewards.
Interesting. What else characterizes them?
They often prefer tasks of moderate difficulty, not too easy, because that's boring, but not so hard that success is purely down to luck. They want challenges where their own effort and skill make a difference.
Okay. And there's even an evolutionary perspective mentioned in the sources, right, about perfectionism.
Yes, some researchers suggest that this drive to improve, to strive for perfection, even though true perfection is impossible, might have played a role in human development, pushing us to refine tools, strategies, and understanding.
Huh. Like a built-in quality control.
Sort of, yeah. Though obviously perfectionism has its downsides too, if taken too far.
Oh, for sure. Now, what about self-determination theory? That came up too.
Right. Deci and Ryan's theory. It's hugely influential. It posits that intrinsic motivation, the kind that really fuels sustained effort and deep learning, thrives when three fundamental psychological needs are met.
And those are?
Autonomy, which is the need to feel like you have control and choice over your actions. Relatedness, the need to feel connected to others. And competence, the need to feel effective and capable in what you do.
So feeling like you can do it, you want to do it, and it matters to people you care about.
That's a pretty good summary, yeah. When those needs are supported, people are more likely to be intrinsically motivated to achieve.
And then there's Hobbes, the philosopher, with a slightly less rosy view of human motivation.
Yes. Hobbes had a more primal take. He pointed to fundamental drivers like the desire for power, pleasure, profit, pride-maintaining reputation, and, of course, self-preservation. Achievement could arguably serve several of those masters.
Right. Gaining status or resources through achievement definitely fits there.
And linking this back to practical stuff, achievement is obviously tied closely to goal setting. How we perceive our progress towards a goal, and even how that goal is framed, like focusing on learning versus just performing, can significantly impact our motivation.
And what about when things go wrong? Failure seems pretty central to the whole process, too.
Absolutely crucial. The sources really emphasize failure not as an endpoint, but as a catalyst for learning. This is where concepts like having a growth mindset, believing your abilities can be developed through dedication and hard work, become so important.
As opposed to a fixed mindset where you think talent is innate and you either have it or you don't.
Exactly. People with a growth mindset tend to see failure as an opportunity to learn and improve, rather than a reflection of their fixed inadequacy. Grit, that perseverance and passion for long-term goals, and psychological flexibility, the ability to adapt and persist even when things are tough, are also key.
There was also mention of a model of action phases, or MAP.
Yeah, that model looks at the whole goal-striving process,
Yeah.
from setting the goal to planning, acting, and then, importantly, evaluating the outcome. Those post-behavioral evaluations, how we think about our successes and failures, heavily influence whether and how we pursue future goals.
It's like a feedback loop for motivation.
Precisely.
And all this striving, this achieving,
Yeah.
that must tie into how we feel about ourselves, right? Self-esteem.
Definitely. There's a strong link. Accomplishing things, especially things that are challenging or meaningful to us, generally boosts self-esteem. This is why celebrating small wins along the way is often recommended.
Yeah, it keeps the momentum going.
Exactly. Setting realistic goals so that achievement is actually possible, and again, fostering that growth mindset helps build self-esteem that's resilient, not just dependent on constant success.
And beyond just feeling good, achievement plays a role in shaping who we are, our identity.
Yes, particularly during adolescence and early adulthood. Our achievements, academic, sporting, artistic, social, become part of the story we tell ourselves about who we are and what we're capable of.
But there's a catch, isn't there? Can we focus too much on achievement?
Oh, absolutely. The sources caution against an excessive focus on achievement, which can lead to burnout, chronic anxiety, imposter syndrome, that feeling that you're a fraud and will be found out.
Right, even when you are succeeding.
Exactly. And just this pervasive feeling of never being good enough, always needing to chase the next accomplishment. It underscores the importance of finding a balance, prioritizing well-being alongside striving. Achievement is important, but it's not everything.
That's a really crucial point. Okay, so let's zoom out again. How does all this individual striving impact society more broadly?
Well, achievement goals don't just exist in a vacuum. They fundamentally connect our individual need for competence with the values and expectations of the society we live in.
So it's a two-way street.
Absolutely. There's this reciprocal relationship. Our individual pursuits are shaped by social structures and norms, and in turn, our collective achievements shape those structures and norms over time.
And this ties back to Murray's findings too, right? About certain conditions fostering achievement.
Yes, exactly. He found correlations between the level of human accomplishment in certain fields and societal factors like political freedom, religious liberty, and even just the proximity to universities or centers of learning.
So the environment really matters.
It seems to. And there's often a self-reinforcing cycle. Innovation attracts talent, which leads to more innovation, creating these dynamic clusters of achievement.
And we touched on the cultural differences earlier, individualistic versus collectivistic, but how does that play out in terms of motivation and societal structures?
Well, revisiting that contrast, in individualistic societies, the motivation often comes from within, focused on personal goals and standing out. The definition of success is personal. In collectivistic societies, motivation might be more driven by group goals, social harmony, and fulfilling obligations. Success is defined more in terms of contribution to the group. These different orientations shape everything from parenting styles to educational systems to workplace dynamics.
So sociology offers different lenses to view this too, beyond just cultural comparison.
Definitely. Functionalism, for example, would look at how achievement contributes to social order. Think about the idea of meritocracy society functioning best when positions are filled based on demonstrated competence and achievement. It serves a function.
Okay, what about other perspectives?
Symbolic interactionism would focus more on the micro level, how we define achievement through social interactions, how we compare ourselves to others, the role of feedback and labels in shaping our sense of accomplishment.
Like how getting positive feedback reinforces your identity as an achiever.
Exactly. And then conflict theory would highlight the inequalities. It would argue that the playing field isn't level, that structural inequalities based on class, race, gender, etc., significantly limit opportunities for achievement for many groups, regardless of their individual effort or talent.
Right, challenging that pure meritocracy idea.
Precisely. It points out the systemic barriers.
Okay, let's maybe put some historical meat on these bones. The sources included a table of historical milestones.
Yeah, Table 2. It gives some great concrete examples of how achievements have driven civilization forward. It spans from ancient stuff right up to the 20th century.
So starting way back.
Yeah, like the agricultural revolution, around 6500 BC maybe. Developing agriculture and irrigation, particularly in places like Mesopotamia. That fundamentally changed human society from nomadic hunter-gatherers to settled agricultural communities. Huge impact.
And writing, of course. Another ancient one.
Absolutely. Crucial for record keeping, communication, preserving knowledge. Then jumping forward, you have things like the printing press in the mid-15th century.
Revolutionized information sharing.
Totally. Then the 18th, 19th centuries bring the railway, massive impact on transport, trade, connecting regions.
The 19th century also gave us the practical light bulb, changed daily life fundamentally.
And then the 20th century. I mean, where do you start? Vaccines dramatically improving public health. The moon landing is this incredible feat of engineering and exploration. And of course, the internet, which we're still grappling with the impact of.
Each of those milestones wasn't just a cool invention. It fundamentally altered how people lived, worked, and interacted.
Precisely. They represent major advancements, often building on previous knowledge that reshaped civilization.
But this brings up some tricky ethical questions, doesn't it? Starting with that idea of meritocracy we mentioned.
Yes. On the surface, meritocracy, the idea that rewards and positions should be distributed based on talent, effort, and achievement, sounds fair, right? It potentially incentivizes hard work and promotes social mobility based on merit rather than just birthright.
But what are the criticisms?
Well, the main criticism, as conflict theory suggests, is that it often fails to account for those structural inequalities. People don't start from the same place. Differences in wealth, access to quality education, systemic biases, they all create an uneven playing field.
So the winners might not have won solely on merit, but also due to privilege.
That's the argument. Critics say meritocracy can overlook these systemic barriers and even lead successful individuals to disregard the role privilege played in their own achievements, maybe leading to less empathy for those who haven't made it.
Are there efforts to address this?
Some, yeah. The sources mentioned initiatives like the Access to Achievement program, which aims to boost opportunities for individuals with disabilities, trying to level that playing field somewhat.
And the ethical considerations pop up in recognizing achievement too, right? Like in the workplace.
Definitely. Employee recognition programs are common, aiming to motivate and reward good work. But if they're not perceived as fair and transparent, they can backfire.
How so?
If people suspect favoritism, or if only certain types of achievements are recognized, it can lead to resentment, demotivation, and feeling undervalued. Fairness is key.
And what about the achievement itself? Can an achievement be bad?
That's a fascinating ethical question, and the answer often depends heavily on cultural context. What one culture views as a beneficial achievement, another might see as harmful or morally questionable.
Like developing a powerful weapon, maybe.
Exactly. Perceptions of benefit, morality, and the impact on others are crucial, but the boundaries differ. Philosophically, though, there's often a link drawn between professional achievement and ethical principles. The idea that true achievement should ideally contribute to human flourishing and the common good.
But that can get complicated in collective action too, right?
Yeah, ethical dilemmas arise where individual actions might seem minor, but their cumulative effect has significant ethical consequences, positive or negative. Think about environmental issues, for example.
Okay, shifting gears slightly, let's talk about time, memory, legacy. How do achievements echo through history?
Well, historical memory is basically how societies collectively remember and interpret the past. Legacy is more about the lasting impact, the influence that an individual or a group's actions and achievements have on the future. Both are crucial for shaping our understanding of where we came from and inspiring future efforts.
And how do we, keep these memories alive?
Societies use all sorts of mechanisms. Museums preserving artifacts, oral traditions passing down stories, education systems teaching history, archives storing documents. These all help preserve the record of past achievements.
And why is that important? Just nostalgia?
It's more than that. Building upon past achievements is fundamental for future progress. That standing on the shoulders of giants idea again. Acknowledging past successes can motivate future endeavors. But there's a caution too. We shouldn't be so fixated on the past that it stifles present innovation.
Finding that balance.
Exactly. And always remembering the potential for human ingenuity to surpass even what we currently understand or think is possible.
Let's talk more about legacy. How is that defined?
Legacy is often framed as the lasting positive impact of an individual's life. It's broader than just tangible achievements. It includes values passed on, contributions made, influence on others.
And thinking about legacy has personal benefits too.
Apparently so. Focusing on creating a positive legacy is linked to improved mental health, greater resilience, and a stronger sense of purpose in life. It connects you to something bigger than yourself.
So how can someone consciously shape their legacy? It sounds a bit grand.
It doesn't have to be world-changing. The sources suggest things like evaluating your contributions. What impact are you having now? Defining your purpose, what matters most to you, sharing your knowledge and skills, maybe even documenting your life story or values for family.
Practical things, too.
Yeah, community involvement, creating something of lasting value, whether it's art, a business, a strong family, even just thoughtful future planning like estate planning or ethical wills. Legacy can take many forms: impact on loved ones, professional contributions, driving social change, cultural influence, even providing financial resources for future generations or causes.
It addresses that very human concern about, well, our lives being finite, doesn't it?
Exactly. Legacy offers a sense of enduring meaning and fulfillment that extends beyond our individual lifespan. It's a way to feel like our life mattered in the grand scheme of things.
Okay, let's try to pull some of these different threads together. We've got philosophical views, historical perspective, sociological analyses. How do they give us a more holistic picture?
Well, the philosophical angle really digs into the value and purpose of achievement. There's this achievementist view that suggests achievement itself is a core component of a good life.
Why? What makes it valuable?
Often, the value is seen as linked to the difficulty of the process. Achieving something easy isn't usually considered much of an achievement. It's overcoming challenges, exercising our human capacities like rationality, willpower, skill that gives it weight. One philosopher, Glenn Bradford, argues the value lies significantly in the competent effort and agency involved.
The struggle makes it meaningful.
In a way, yes. And then there's the debate about whether achievement directly contributes to the good life. You've got Aristotelian ideas where achievement might be linked to exercising virtue, and utilitarian views where it might contribute by maximizing happiness or well-being, either for the achiever or for others.
We also saw philosophical takes on motivation earlier, self-determination theory, Hobbes.
Right, and the concept of ambition, that drive to achieve great things, is a recurring theme in philosophy, viewed sometimes as a virtue, sometimes as potentially dangerous.
Then the historical perspective, like Murray's work.
Yeah, human accomplishment provides that quantitative survey trying to map the peaks and troughs of achievement across different cultures and historical periods in the arts and sciences. Gives us data, patterns to analyze.
And reminds us of those key turning points, printing press, vaccines, etc.
Exactly. Highlighting how specific achievements fundamentally altered the course of civilization, and emphasizing that cumulative nature progress building on progress.
And sociology grounds it all in social reality.
Precisely. It analyzes achievement within social frameworks, power dynamics. It reminds us that achievement is defined socially and plays a key role in social stratification, especially in modern societies that rely, at least theoretically, on demonstrated competence.
And sociological views on motivation look at how social structures influence our drive to achieve.
Yes, looking at things like the status achievement process, how our social background influences our opportunities and aspirations, and the interplay between social factors and individual psychology.
There is also the concept of achievement ideology.
Right. That's the widespread belief, particularly in societies like the U.S., that success is primarily due to individual factors like hard work, talent, and education. Sociologists often critique this ideology for masking or downplaying the role of those structural inequalities we talked about.
It kind of props up the meritocracy idea while ignoring the uneven starting lines.
That's the critique, yes.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about individual achievement, but what about collective success? How do groups achieve things?
Collective success seems to be fostered by a few key ingredients. Having clear, shared goals that everyone buys into, a strong sense of commitment from members, mutual confidence within the team, and building positive momentum, celebrating small wins together.
And leadership must be important.
Crucial. Effective leadership is needed to align all those individual contributions, keep everyone focused on the team objectives, and manage the process.
There was mention of a specific model for tackling big problems together.
Ah, yes, the collective impact model. It's designed for addressing complex social problems that no single organization can solve alone. It involves getting different players from various sectors to commit to a shared agenda, use common ways to measure progress, coordinate their activities so they reinforce each other, maintain continuous communication, and have a dedicated backbone organization to coordinate the whole effort.
Sounds complex, but necessary for big challenges. And what about setting goals for teams more generally?
The sources outline some steps for efficient and effective team goal setting. Things like Clearly identifying the team's purpose, involving members and setting the goals, crucial for buy-in, making sure goals are smart, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound.
Standard goal-setting stuff, but for a group.
Exactly. Plus, breaking down large tasks, setting realistic deadlines, assigning clear roles and responsibilities, maintaining open communication, monitoring progress, providing feedback, and regularly reviewing how things are going.
And diversity within teams came up too.
Yes, recognizing and leveraging diversity, different skills, perspectives, backgrounds, is increasingly seen as vital for maximizing collective creativity, problem-solving, and ultimately success. Homogeneous teams might reach consensus faster, but diverse teams often come up with more robust and innovative solutions.
How do you get widespread participation in these big collective efforts? It seems hard to get everyone on board.
Strategies mentioned include clearly articulating a shared vision and values that resonate with people, promoting inclusive opportunities so everyone feels they can contribute, creating platforms for collaboration, physical or virtual, recognizing diverse forms of contribution, not just leadership roles, framing goals in ways that highlight their inherent significance, and leveraging technology to connect people and facilitate action.
Is it even feasible to have universal collective goals, things everyone on Earth could agree on?
That's a huge question. The sources mention concepts like collective future thinking, CFT, which explores how shared visions of the future might motivate present-day collective action. But the immense diversity of human values, priorities, and political realities makes universal agreement incredibly challenging.
So maybe focus on shared problems instead.
That seems more practical, focusing on universally recognized global challenges like climate change, pandemics, extreme poverty areas where collective action is clearly needed, even if the specific approaches are debated.
And there are ethical considerations even in setting those goals, right?
Absolutely. Things like ensuring decision-making is inclusive, respecting individual liberties and cultural differences, figuring out equitable ways to allocate resources and responsibilities, and trying to anticipate and mitigate potential unintended negative consequences of pursuing a particular collective goal. It's a complex stuff.
Okay, this is fascinating. We have to address the final section from the sources, the reflection on achievement in the age of AI.
Right. The elephant in the room, maybe. How does artificial intelligence change the game?
What's the general take? Is AI a competitor?
The dominant perspective in the materials was to frame AI primarily as a tool, potentially a very powerful one, to augment human potential, rather than simply a competitor set to replace us.
Like previous technologies have done.
Exactly. Historical precedents were mentioned. Think about how calculators changed math education, or how photography changed the role of painting. Technology often reshapes human roles and skills rather than eliminating the need for them entirely.
But people are anxious, right?
Right.
About losing purpose or AI diminishing human creativity.
Oh, definitely. Those anxieties are real and were acknowledged. But the counter-argument, or perhaps the more optimistic view, is that AI might redefine creativity, not destroy it. Just like photography freed painters from purely representational work, AI might handle certain tasks, freeing humans up for different kinds of creative and critical thinking.
So focusing on higher-level skills.
Potentially, yes. Skills like critical thinking, complex problem-solving, emotional intelligence, empathy, collaboration, and the kind of creativity that's deeply rooted in human experience and intuition, things AI currently isn't very good at.
But there are ethical warnings too.
Big time. A strong emphasis on the ethical implications of developing and deploying AI, ensuring it aligns with human values and serves humanity's best interest. We need to be careful navigators of this technology.
What happens when AI starts beating humans at things we used to consider major achievements, like complex games?
That's a key point. AI surpassing human benchmarks in domains like Go, the Lee Sedol match was mentioned, or protein folding, compels us to re-examine what we value about human achievement in those areas. If a machine can do it faster and better, does the human accomplishment lose its meaning?
So where might the value shift?
The suggestion is that the value of human achievement might increasingly be found in the aspects that are uniquely human. Things like the intentionality behind the effort, the purpose driving it, the emotionally driven or ethically informed nature of creativity, the very process of struggle and growth involved.
The journey, not just the destination.
Perhaps, yeah. And AI is still seen as having huge potential as a tool and catalyst for future human accomplishments, accelerating research in medicine, helping solve complex environmental problems, creating new art forms, even assisting in legal analysis.
The sources mentioned artificial achievements. What does that mean?
It refers to accomplishments made by AI, raising philosophical questions about whether we can truly call them achievements in the same way we think about human ones, especially if they lack consciousness, intention, or subjective experience. Lee Sedol's retirement after facing AI was cited as a poignant moment reflecting this shift.
And achievement intelligence.
That was proposed as a kind of guiding principle, the idea that as we develop AI, we should prioritize collaboration between human intelligence and artificial intelligence in a way that enhances human well-being, ethical considerations, and our capacity for meaningful achievement, rather than just optimizing for raw performance metrics.
So the definition of human achievement itself might need to evolve.
It seems likely. It might need to place more emphasis on those uniquely human qualities: intentionality, creativity grounded in experience, ethical judgment, the narrative of the struggle and learning, rather than just comparing ourselves to machines on speed or accuracy.
Wow. Okay, so wrapping this deep dive up, human achievement is, it's complicated.
Definitely multifaceted, shaped by psychology, culture, history, social structures, ethics. And now, technology like AI is adding another layer.
But the drive to achieve, in whatever form we define it, seems pretty fundamental to the human experience.
It really does. And its continued pursuit, both individually and collectively, promises to keep shaping our future in profound ways.
So maybe the final thought for our listeners is, given all this, what's your definition of achievement? And what role does its pursuit play in your own life?
A good question to ponder.
This is DigitView.